So we're going to get started. So thank you, Betsy and I are back. We were here last month. And we're going to talk about oxygen, part 2, oxygen equipment and travel. And we want you to travel successfully and be aware of what's out there and be aware of what your saturations are. Everybody should have an oximeter. Everybody should know what their saturations are. So we're going to talk about travel and oxygen and why we need it. And look at all these great devices that Mike and Leo brought in as well, that you can find the best device for you when you do travel. Because having COPD or IPF or ILD doesn't mean you need to stay home. It means that you need to get up and about and do your thing safely. And that's our goal, is to do it safely. So let's get started. Thanks. Now you know, all know I don't have computer skills, so I
Just push the right arrow. Push the space bar.
okay, that's better. No, that's why I have Sarah.
Oh, there it is.
Oh, see, Betsy knew. Okay, you want to start? As a reminder.
Okay, who can tell me why your doctor prescribes oxygen? If you go into the office and say you're short of breath, is he going to give you oxygen and send you home? No, no, not just that fast and easy. Can you hear it better now?
Yeah.
There you go. So why is he giving you oxygen if you're short of breath? If you're not. What's the purpose of oxygen therapy?
Life.
Life, absolutely, to make you live longer. Most of the time it'll make you breathe easier, but the idea is to preserve your organs, the brain, the heart, the liver, the kidneys, all of the organs, to keep them healthy and strong and to make you live longer. Absolutely. First organs to feel the effect of loss of oxygen are the heart, which is pretty big for our survival, and even stronger than that is the brain. The brain is 3% of our body size, and it uses 25% of the oxygen that we bring in. So you can imagine that foggy thinking, difficulty with numbers, anything that has to do with brain power is going to be directly and immediately affected by oxygen. Oxygen is crucial for every cell in the body. Now, when your doctor puts you on oxygen, he has to test it. You have to qualify. You have to prove to the insurance companies and to your doctor that it is medically necessary. That is the term that is used. They do that with an oximeter. That 6-minute walk where they'll check you when you're resting on room air and get you up and walk you up and down the hall for 6 minutes. If your oxygen level falls to 88%, you qualify for oxygen. At that point, it's medically necessary. It's going to help with your longevity and your quality of life. It's going to benefit you in every way, especially the insurance company. At that point, the insurance company and Medicare will cover it. So when they prescribe a liter flow, and bear in mind, we will be reminding you several times during this talk, your physician always thinks in terms of liters per minute. Always. They have no idea about number 1, number 2, number 5, number 8. If you go in your doctor's office and on a conserving device and say, oh, I'm on number 5 right now, he's going to scratch his head and think, oh, 5 liters per minute? That's a lot of oxygen. We could get into that deeper a little bit further on. But for every 1 liter per minute of continuous flow, you're getting an extra 3% oxygen down in your alveoli sacs. It's not like you need tons of oxygen to keep you well oxygenated and to keep you in a healthy range. If you are on 2 liters per minute, which is a very standard starting point, that means he's giving you an extra 6% oxygen. When you blend that with the 21% that's already in the atmosphere surrounding us, your new normal is 27% oxygen. It's not like it's a huge amount. It's just enough to keep you bumped up and in the healthy zone and keep you well saturated. Sure. We're going to talk about equipment today. We could go over a little bit about the saturations, the important points. But we're going to talk about portable oxygen concentrators with a quick spiel on the stationary ones in the home.
What did I do?
What did you touch?
I tried to just hear the visual. Sorry.
Jackie, sit on your hands.
Don't touch me. I have it in writing, as you can tell, but I don't know computers very well.
Standard therapy for oxygen right now in your home is an oxygen concentrator. They're usually large pieces of equipment. They plug into the wall. They are electrically powered, and they do need a source of electricity to run. If the electricity goes out, the concentrator goes out, and you won't be getting oxygen during that time. Plus side is I've heard from many of you out there that the power companies are very good at notifying you in advance. Yes. And the oxygen companies leave you backups with you too, so you don't have to spend time worrying about that. They're durable, they're dependable, they're workhorses. They're workhorses. And it's interesting how they work. Back in the day when I was in school, well, that's really back in the day, learning about this, we took a concentrator apart, and inside it had 3 chambers. This was a large stationary. The chambers are called sieve beds. And inside each sieve bed is a substance that looks like beach sand called zeolite. Now, I'm just telling you about this because this is where the magic occurs in my view. Your concentrator pulls in slowly the ambient room air that's surrounding us all the time. It sends the first dose to the first sieve bed, which filters the oxygen, or actually filters the room air through the sieve bed, that separates the nitrogen particles from the oxygen particles. Oh, I was wondering if those little ones have sieve. Yeah, they must, huh?
Ooh, there you go.
Wow, the ones we had were this tall and this big around.
Wow, that is so
So
cool.
the sieve bed separates, how many does that just have the one in it?
2 of them,
Two of them.
1 on each side.
Wow.
Wow.
Okay, so it comes in, has room air, which is 21% oxygen, goes through the first sieve bed, kicks out the nitrogen back out into the air, sends that concentrated oxygen into the second sieve bed, which takes more of the nitrogen out of it. It filters it by particle size, sends the nitrogen back out to the room air, and goes to the third and final sieve bed with the old dinosaurs that are probably still around somewhere. And by the time it goes through that third sieve bed, it's concentrated. What came in as 21% is now leaving at anywhere between 85 and 95%, which is good enough. That's going to give you a good jolt of oxygen, and you're going to be feeling better and functioning better. So the way they work is pretty magical, if you ask me, but the biomedical people call it science. It will increase your electricity bill, no doubt about it. But they know that, and your doctor knows that, so you should get a waiver. You can have your doctor sign a form that's on the website of the power company. It's easy to find on scp.com. And that will give you a break on your electrical bill. It'll increase your baseline allowance that you spend before you get any overage charges. It also puts you on a high alert risk because they know that you are now at home with a life-saving device or life-enhancing device. So please take advantage of that discount. I understand that it's noticeable on the bill. I guess that would depend upon how often you use the concentrator, what the flow was at, and all that sort of stuff.
Definitely worth it.
Definitely worth it. Oh, absolutely. Most of the home concentrators go between 1 and 6 liters per minute. There's some that go up to 12 or 15. We've had a couple people on a concentrator at home stationary that goes up to 15 liters per minute. But that's what you use when you're at home. There'll be a long cord on it so you can walk around. You can go into the kitchen. If you place it central in your home, you should be able to reach the bathroom. Okay, now how many of you shower with your oxygen on? Oh, you guys are so awesome. Look at this. And you know what? I believe you. I totally believe you. And that's a better response than I expected. You use your oxygen when you're active and need it the most, when you get short of breath the most, and when you're burning it. And that certainly is during showering. So with the long cord, you can take it to the shower, to the other bedrooms, to the den. If you needed to, you could push it to a back porch area and go out in your yard. You should be able to reach just about every place on your property with your home concentrator. The whole problem comes in, or the whole challenge comes in, is when you want to leave the home, especially when you want to travel. Let's see.
Switch it.
No, don't, I'm not supposed to touch it.
I forgot.
They do need periodic maintenance, and that's up to the oxygen company, and they will periodically need small little monitoring to make sure that they're working okay. But they really provide oxygen reliably and continuously. Now with the portable concentrators, that's where we have the decision to make. There are companies that will advertise late at night on TV and in just certain magazines saying, basically one size fits all. Buy our concentrator. Look at how cute it is. Look at how small. You'll be able to go out and you'll be able to garden again. And you'll be able to run and play with your grandchildren again. That would be nice. But that's not always the case. And unfortunately, a lot of oxygen providers do not focus on what that piece of equipment is doing to your saturation. Different people respond differently to each piece of equipment. We saw, you're going to leave that out?
Yeah.
Look at these little dinky Sitbits.
These are great Sitbits. I didn't know they came out, guys.
Isn't this adorable? This is the Inogen. It's the most popular one for obvious reasons. It's small, it's light, it's easy to walk around with.
So you put the battery in.
Yeah, sure. Well, still, it's better than some of the other ones when it comes to convenience.
Yeah.
But small concentrator and small sieve beds means
Lousy flow.
means small amount of oxygen.
But never continuous.
Correct.
Oh, you're jumping the gun. Smart. Good point, Bibi. Means it makes a small amount of oxygen. If you want a larger amount of oxygen, you need a larger piece of equipment. And as Bibi just pointed out to you, this is pulsed dose only. Does everybody know what we mean by pulsed dose? When you breathe in through your nose, that initial inspiratory effort, that pull of oxygen, that pull of air, triggers this machine to kick on and send you a breath only when you're breathing in. It is, I turned that off. I did, I thought I turned it off. It is excellent in theory, but the reality is a little bit different.
Right.
Because it sends you a measured little dose of oxygen when you breathe in, and only at that time. What happens if you're a mouth breather? You're in trouble is right. That's a real problem. Because most people, especially people with chronic lung disease, sit and rest and breathe through their nose real comfortably. But when you get up and walk, notice sometimes that you probably convert spontaneously from that primitive deep brain, start mouth breathing as you walk. Because when you breathe through your mouth, it's a larger area and you can pull in more air with less effort. So it's one of the ways that your body compensates for needing the extra oxygen to fuel your walking. When you're walking, you have to fuel those muscles. So the same thing happens when you sleep. When you sleep, we breathe shallower and we breathe slower. And we're in a position where we really don't circulate his oxygen as well as we would if we were upright or semi-upright. So when you go to sleep, your oxygen levels could plummet.
Wow.
And that's how we monitor those with those oximeter watches that have the memory in it. And when you fall asleep, when you're breathing slower and shallower, most of you won't be able to pull on and trigger the pulse dose to give you any oxygen. So what it boils down to is, besides the fact that it's adorable, it's easy to travel with, I think if they want to boost their sales, they should do them in pink and green and lavender and make them like a fashion accessory.
Sparkly.
Bling them out, Sarah, bling them out. And Yeah, we got to, have you seen Valeria's pendant oximizer? She's got feathers and rhinestones and
No, I haven't seen
we'll
it.
have
She
to, we'll have
blinks
to
it
show
out
her.
pretty
Valeria.
I should start a business.
Thought about it.
Look at these tidbits for this
Oh
tiny
my
one.
God. So the reality is when you need the oxygen the most, you don't get it.
Tiny.
And while this may be easier to travel and move around with, use your pulse oximeter. The decision maker is not, how does my breathing feel right now? Ultimately, it has nothing to do with how your breathing feels. Isn't that crazy, maker? It can be hard to accept. But the decision maker is what the oximeter is reading at that moment. You're so fortunate to have those available to you at a reasonable price, going back, well, more decades than I want to reveal. Jackie and I, they weren't available. We didn't have them.
We had the first
Yeah, we saw
portable
that.
oxygen.
Those big giant ones, bigger than this. The first portable oximeter that we had was significantly bigger than this. So you having those little ones, you can monitor yourself at home and see how you're doing. The concentrators that are pulse dose only, price-wise, they tend to run about the same as the other concentrators, don't they? It's like a Sequal or a Life Flow.
No, 25.
25.
Yeah, 25 to 35 is what I've heard. But it's all about the saturation. It's all about whether it's going to keep you where you need to be. Now, the last time I looked up and was doing some research on the Inogen, which is hugely popular, and we'll explain that it does work for some people. It was able to make those sieve beds that I told you goes through the, only two now, they're down to two small little sieve beds. It is able to make at 800 milliliters a minute. Then they advertised, Inogen advertised that they had a new, more powerful concentrator, larger volume, better performance, and that one made 840 milliliters a minute. So when you think of it, that's less than 1 liter per minute that's being delivered to you. And it's spread out over your whole cycle, the whole 1 minute cycle of your breathing, and it's divided up into those little bitty doses. And Leo has some, he knows what the doses are.
On the Inogen, it's 16 milliliters per breath per setting.
16 milliliters per breath per setting. So one would be 16, two would be 32.
Every breath they take, they would get 32 on the setting up to.
Okay.
32 milliliters.
Okay. And then you think about an ounce is 28 milliliters. So you're getting oxygen that's rationed, and that's a smaller amount. And regardless of how hard you try, or the machine tries, you can't override it. It can only make for you what it can make for you. It's maybe great while you're sitting, if you've got a long car ride or sitting on an airplane, it may be great while you're sitting. The problem is when you get up to move and when you sleep. And Inogen has been advertising late at night on those shows when I'm still awake, that it's a 24-hour, all-in-one, you can sleep with it. I find that hard to believe, and I would encourage everybody here who would have that question to borrow an oximeter, the memory ones that we put on your wrist, and go home and sleep with it and see what it does for you. Ultimately, that's why you're wearing it, to keep your saturation up. Not to be cute, not to be easy, not to, it might be a little struggle otherwise, but the whole thing and the whole idea behind oxygen is to keep your saturations up. Mouth breathers beware. So the benefit of having an Inogen is they're small and they're light. And in some cases, they may be lighter than your purse or your travel bag.
They're heavier than I thought.
Yeah.
By the time you add extra batteries and put in some extra cannulas and maybe a battery charger, a remote battery charger, the weight can add up a little bit. But in the world of oxygen technology, they're pretty convenient. No doubt about that.
Better than not
The
having
batteries, better than what?
anything. Not having anything.
What is the big
Oh,
battery?
see, I kind of debate that myself, but
I have the big battery and the little battery, but
they have an 8-hour battery, don't they?
That's the larger one.
The larger one is 8 hours.
More like 5.
That's more than what you're gonna get, more like 5, that doesn't surprise me at all. But you know, maybe part of that depends upon how fast you're breathing. If you're
And
breathing
how-
faster
and your
and turning it on more frequently,
How high you're going.
you're gonna be using up the battery faster
Mine
The
was
level.
pretty fast.
in the area, in the range of level. They are airlines approved. Now, I think the Inogen is great for someone that desaturates just a little bit. Maybe goes to 88 or 87 and doesn't fall much lower than that. Or maybe with harder exercise and more strenuous activity. But it's not uncommon for people to kind of grow out of them after a little while, to say, this doesn't saturate me anymore. Well, then we need to look for something that does saturate you better.
I know I was on a plane last year and I got that big concentrator and we put it under the seat in front of us. But I had to go to the bathroom
Yeah.
and I didn't feel like dragging this out and, taking it to the bathroom. They're so small anyways. And before I knew it, I was running out of air. And I
Yes,
had
you
to-
were.
I had to hurry back to my seat to put it on.
Yes, you were. And hurrying was probably the last thing you should have done in reality. But it's that panic and that urge to
That's
breathe.
panic.
It's absolutely that. And what we recommend doing, and the airlines that have always been 100% supportive of, is when you book your seat, book it near a bathroom. And take like a 25-foot cord with you and just wear it for a short distance into the bathroom while you go in there. Because that's when you're going to need it most. And that airplane is pressurized, but it's not pressurized to sea level. It's pressurized to 8,000 feet.
And that's hard to breathe.
We're gonna get there soon, much harder to breathe. I was on an airplane and sitting in rest while we were climbing and while they were pressurizing the cabin. I'm curious, I wanted to see what my saturation did. I just, textbook, slowly desaturated, and went down to 90%, which is where the graph on oxygen saturation said I should have been. I was so impressed, I thought, oh my God, how did my body know to do that? And then I had to get up to go to the bathroom. And I walked from my seat to the bathroom, who's never had a pulmonary problem in her life, and I went down to 88%. Just that walk down, probably halfway length of the aisle.
Because that's 8,000 feet.
Because there's less oxygen in the cabin available for us to breathe. I'm gonna speak fast so we can get there. So the benefits are smaller, lighter, easy to carry, easier to ambulate. They're kind of cute. And it's got some drawbacks though. It only produces a little amount of oxygen, not a whole lot. The other drawback is it's not recommended for mouth breathers and it's not recommended for sleep.
Really?
You do not read out in liters per minute, which is what your doctor's going to think about when he asks you how you're doing at home. It's numbers that luckily Leo knows what each one is, but across the board through different brands, there's no standardization. The Inogen number 1 is 16. On another piece of equipment it could be 25, and on another one it could be 12. There's no real standardization of how much for each number that's on the concentrator. It's not recommended during sleep. It does not support CPAP or oxymizers. So if you need to sleep with CPAP, or if you want to use an oxymizer cannula, you cannot use either one of those with the Inogen. And the thing that might be more frightening for me to think about, or you to think about, is there's no rescue mode. Back with the old, we used to use e-tanks with the regulator that had a pulse dose on it. It delivered you your burst of oxygen, and if you got short of breath, if you had a long walk or were having a bad day and found yourself in that panic, rapid breathing phase, we could turn it on continuous slow until you got yourself out of that and relaxed and came down and was breathing normal again. It was nice to have that continuous flow backup if you needed. You don't have that with concentrators. You have just what they can give you and that's it. Then we have the concentrators that do both continuous and oxygen conserving. And that would be, this is my personal favorite. This is the Respironics Go-To. Simply Go. Yeah, I've been out of it for a while now. And this does continuous flow at 2 liters per minute or pulse dose. So if you're sitting and resting and not burning up any oxygen and exerting yourself, the pulse dose would be ideal. It would keep you oxygenated and it would draw less energy from the battery. You'd be using less battery life. And then when you get up and move, or if you are going to go to sleep, or if you need that rescue burst, is that the battery? Look at that battery. It's not as light as it looks, but it's definitely nice.
But
So-
battery life isn't as long as what we would like.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
But it delivers more oxygen to you.
But it
You can
does.
go back between the different modes, continuous versus pulse dose. So you can sleep with it, and because it does have continuous flow, you can use a CPAP machine or an oxidizer with it. I forget how much it weighs, but it would be 10 pounds, and the Sequel's what, 13 or 14?
14 pounds,
14
pounds.
18 pounds.
Before these Simply Go came out, we fell in love with the Sequel. Now, I don't have to tell you what the drawbacks are. You can look at it and tell. It's large. It's heavy. It's kind of bulky. It's got a set of wheels that make it easy to wheel around with you. It does slide over the seat in front of you when you're in an airplane. You can put it down and slide over, and when you put it in that airplane under the seat, the control panel is right here in front of you.
The box is right in front of that.
Oh, thank you. So when you-
Frame off there before it's up to the balls.
If you want to, the cart comes off very easily. You can just untwist this knob. Can you lay it down for a minute? No, yeah, like that. No, just, you do it like this, slide it under the seat in front of you. Then right where you're sitting, you have the oxygen porthole, the nipple area. You have all of the controls in front of you, the on and off, the continuous, the pulse dose. So you're still totally in charge of what's going on. It separates and concentrates the oxygen in the same way that we've explained with the others. This gives you 3 liters per minute when it's on its maximum. That is 3,000 milliliters versus 800, maybe 1,000 with the newer Inogens. Huge difference, the amount of oxygen you have available to you when you're using something like this. And that's because it is bigger. And it has larger sieve beds that will produce more oxygen to be available for you.
How much does it cost?
They're about the same. We paid, yeah. And sometimes you have companies that will bundle and give you a package and give you a price and give you a deal, and you can wheel and deal like you're buying a car. And with the oxidizer, you can really turn this down low or get maximum oxygenation out of it. Now,
At a half a liter, if you were 2 liters.
oh, if you put this on a half a liter per minute continuous flow and wear an oxidizer cannula, it'll be the equivalent of 2 liters per minute being delivered to you. So you'll save battery time and it will last you longer. And there are extra batteries, you can change them yourself. The newer ones you can change, you don't have to take the card off to change them, they're right there in front. Easy to do it. The one feature I love about this, oh yes, it does have a car charger. And if you have it plugged into the car, while you're using it, it is also charging the battery. So you're not draining the battery while you're driving. The one feature that probably hooked me on it was if you're using this on pulse dose, and you're sitting and you're watching a movie with your family, and you kind of get drowsy and start to fall off asleep, those wonderful spontaneous naps, you start breathing shallower and slower, and you probably are breathing through your mouth. So this, like the other concentrators, won't trigger on. But what it does do, after a predetermined amount of time, I think it's 30 or 45 seconds, when it doesn't detect it has sent you a burst of oxygen, it flips itself into the continuous mode model.
Oh, wow.
So then, you don't have to worry about being saturated while you sleep, because it's gonna say, oh, you're not pulling for oxygen. Hopefully you're asleep, and it will send you that extra burst by just slipping it into the continuous mode. I thought that was pretty brilliant.
Is that applicable for the Eclipse 5 also? Or
Yes.
just for that?
Is it?
No, all of the Eclipse series.
I don't believe the Eclipse 5 does it. You would have to set it on continuous.
Isn't the, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
from what I haven't heard that from the Eclipse 5. You would have to set it yourself on continuous.
I wonder why they would take that feature. The question was, on the Eclipse 5, will it go from pulse dose to continuous flow if it doesn't detect a breath?
No.
They're saying no, it won't.
So on just that?
So we have Dr. Google in our purse, we'll look that up. And aren't the Eclipse 5 pretty much like dinosaurs? They've been,
No, this is.
No, it's actually the opposite. They were making both of these at the same time, the Sequel Eclipse 5 and the Sequel Equinox. But the thing is that this is $1,000 more. So most people are buying online. So when you see it on the computer, you know, you don't get to see the difference. Smaller, better on battery life, and quieter. You would only see that in a showroom like ours, or you would see it here at a rehab center. So most people were just buying that online because it is $1,000 cheaper. So therefore, Sequel stopped making this unit in January 1st of 2018. They still service it, they still sell it out there, and they'll tell you
so
it's
they're not
new.
making the Equinox.
They're not making the Equinox anymore. It's obsolete now. But people will tell you, oh, it's a brand new unit online when you go online. But they stopped making this in 2018.
That's interesting.
But they'll still
because-
service it.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of websites that still have it, and
So they're
it's
still
still out
selling
there.
out them, yeah.
Right, but it's just because most people are buying online and they weren't able to see the difference. But yes, this was better in battery life, quieter and smaller
Lighter and smaller.
compared to
Yes,
this
lighter.
one.
It
This is 18 pounds, this is 14 pounds. This is the only Sequel available right now, and this is the highest manufactured out there. 3 continuous on a portable, you're gonna
That's the
get,
highest.
that's the highest they
Right, there's
go.
none that comes
If
along.
somebody tells you different, they're lying to
Yeah.
you. If somebody says a 4 or a 5 continuous,
Three's max.
They're
Three
probably
is the
talking
max.
about the number that's on the post dose one.
and so, we've seen a lot of Chinese products that they sell on Amazon.
Yes.
And they'll say 5 continuous, but if you read the description, they're pushing 30% oxygen, which we all know here, 30% oxygen won't make a difference.
Actually, we'll say 30% medical grade, which is workers.
Yeah, you gotta be 86 or above to be medical grade oxygen, which is what these machines are doing.
We have several Eclipse 5s, and when I was still working, we needed some replacement parts, they needed some repair. And when I called looking for them, they said, oh, we don't have any parts for them anymore, you'll have to hope you can scrimmage around, because they told me, that's when they told me they were not making that anymore, but that was 4 years ago.
Maybe they don't carry it anymore, but I mean, we have this one 2019 model, but we can't get, they won't sell it.
But not the smaller, lighter.
No.
Right, they
Well,
won't
that's
sell
too
us
bad,
anymore.
because this is great.
It is. Everybody that bought this unit from us, they loved it.
Yeah.
They loved it, very comparative this one.
Yeah.
Any
That's
difference
just
between 18 and 19 model on the Sequel?
No difference.
No difference.
Yes,
Is that the Phillips Simply Go?
it is.
And how high will the Phillips go?
2 continuous. 2 continuous or 6 poles.
We compete every single day against all of these questions that come up on the internet. And people sometimes find us on the internet and call us, and they'll start telling us these stories. And we have to kind of try to educate them and convince them to drive over to see our store, which is about this size, where they can walk around and see and try and walk and determine what really works for them.
By the
That's what
way,
you said.
their store.
You don't know what works for you unless you try
Unless you
it.
try
And
it.
you use the pulse oximeter. We do it every day. We do our own 6-minute walk with every patient. We spend about an hour. And to make sure that the unit that you get fits your requirements. No matter what the RX says, we
Their
know.
store is
what
better.
works.
Right, absolutely.
And they have, every Friday we go there. Every Friday they have a call.
So the question was, do we sell refurbished? We do. Oftentimes, people call us and ask us if we will look at their units because they're They have one available, and we evaluate it based on hours used and what work we need to put in to recertify it. And then we do offer those at a reduced rate compared to a brand new one. So, and we do the same for home units too, by the way.
Can I sleep with the Inogen overnight?
Yeah, that's a good story. We had a patient that said he traveled to Las Vegas.
I'm going to Cancun.
He got to his hotel room, his insurance told him that they were gonna get him a home oxygen concentrator. He got there, for whatever reason, there was nothing there. He said, all I had was my Inogen product and I used it throughout the night, and it did work for him. He told me it worked for him on a 2, because he was on a 2, so it did work for him. But Jackie's right. If you're a mouth breather, it's not gonna work for you. But it does have an alarm.
Right.
If you start breathing through your mouth, it's gonna ring an alarm and say, no breath detected, check your cannula.
Oh, really?
That's when you would check.
Yeah.
But these units, they're getting better in sensitivity,
Good.
picking up that sensitive breath. We have other units that we didn't bring along, the older models, they won't pick up your breathing at night. But as far as Inogen and Simply go, we've heard from experience, some patients have tried it at night, and it does work for them. But it won't work on the CPAP or BiPAP.
However, we won't recommend it.
No, I won't recommend it unless
Even
you've had a
though
sleep study. and
We
you're
have,
done.
we have chin straps and everything else.
Yeah.
It's not something we would, even though it's advertised on the internet, it's kind of like a lot of things on the internet. You don't always get what you
Sounds too
think
good
you're
to
gonna
be
get.
true, probably.
You know, a lot of people invest in Inogen on the internet, and they get a box, and then they call us and ask us, how do I set this up?
Can you plug the battery in while you're using it?
Yes,
Sure.
you can charge it and use it at the same time.
Yeah.
I mean, like
Yes.
say I'm sleeping and I have it on one or two.
So the question is,
Yeah,
can
you're
I
fine.
plug it in while I'm using it, even if I'm sleeping? Absolutely. These batteries will never overcharge. Once it's fully charged, it shuts down charging. They're lithium batteries. That's why they're so expensive.
The 8 battery.
Any of these batteries, they're all lithium-based batteries.
And just like Jackie mentioned, like you mentioned you wanted to try it at night for your trip, get one of those oximeters for
I
the
have
all
one
night,
at home.
try
No,
it,
the
try
sleep
it,
one.
the sleep,
At
try it here before you even
Right.
go for your trip.
Right.
Right, what he's saying is, those oximeters we have in the
For sleep
office?
studies.
That it's a wrist, it goes on, straps on your wrist, and you put it on and you sleep with it, it's got a memory that anyone in this room would die
Oh,
for.
really?
Yeah, it does.
Then you bring it to the office, we download it, and we look and see the whole time you had it on, if you stayed saturated. That's the only way we know.
Oh.
And it's too important, Bibi.
That's the best way to do it. Make sure if you're gonna try to use these on a trip, use it at home and do that measurement so you know for sure. Because otherwise, you don't.
I just want to point out, this is my Easy Pulse machine, Easy Pulse?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, Easy Pulse machine, and it's just pulse only, but if I stop breathing, an alarm goes off.
Yes.
So it won't switch to continuous like your unit will, but the alarm will wake you up and you go, what the hell's going on? And then you start breathing and the alarm goes off.
How high does that go up to?
It goes up to 5 settings.
But we don't know
But
what.
do you know how much per setting?
What
No, you
percentage is
don't.
given, yeah.
No, I don't. No,
Percentage output?
everyone's settings are different.
That's my point.
That's,
That's my point.
5 setting here and 3 setting there.
They're all different.
They all
That's
different.
Standardization.
It's very, very
Standardization.
confusing.
The only thing that is standard is it's gotta be 86% or higher
Right.
on the oxygen output. It's gotta be, in order to be medical grade oxygen, it has to be 86 or higher. A tank, you're gonna get 100% oxygen. With these concentrators, you're looking at 94% oxygen purity.
And what happens with these units, just so you know, these zeolite containers, as they're used, they produce less and less pure oxygen. Over time, it measures it. You'll get an alarm that says it's approaching the 86% level, and that's where you have to replace these units. We do it in our office. It takes about 10 minutes to reset it and put new ones in, but all these portables are the same. Over time, that zeolite does get used up, and you have to replace those cartridges.
So you have to send it in?
No, you come to our office, we can do it in our office in 10 minutes.
Where's your?
Even if you didn't buy your.
Real close.
We got cards.
Yeah.
The nice thing about it
My
too
child went
is
to the airport.
that it'll tell you 30 days in advance.
On an imaging one for one of those
those refurbs?
What was that?
Will you take a trade-in for an imaging one on one of those, 3 refurbs?
We don't carry
don't
this
carry that.
refurb, but we would take it on one of these. Which is
No, I
the-
gotta have this other one over
Oh,
here.
yeah.
We don't carry
don't
this.
carry
They don't make that one anymore.
It's not made anymore.
Does the newer one fit underneath the?
Yes.
It does, yes.
Yes, they all do.
Yes. And then, for example, if you're on your trip and you get that alarm to change your sieve beds or your canisters, you have 30 days to do so. So it won't catch you off guard.
You gentlemen repaired those. Replace them yourself, the
Oh.
cylinders?
You can replace them she asked if you could replace these canisters yourself. Yes, it's very easy. You could do it at home. It also comes with a poster.
Direction.
Step by step with pictures, very easy to do, very easy to reset. You could do it at home, but
How
if
do
you
you know
wanna
when
bring
you
it
need
to
it?
us, we could do
The
it.
light goes on.
We'll reset it, we'll clean it up, we'll test it for you. And
Uh-huh.
yeah, and then this gentleman asked if we could repair these. Yes, this kind, we have a service department. We're limited on parts on this unit. But we do have some parts, we will be able to work on it. But we also do the service on these units. There's a yearly service that should be done, we do it on
I just
site.
had mine and it had to go clear to Florida to get the damn thing fixed.
Yeah,
Oh, I sent ours to San Diego.
yes,
That's where I
And
sent
they
mine.
shipped it to
Oh,
Florida.
did they?
Yeah.
San
Yeah,
Diego.
San Diego's where I shipped.
yes, to
Okay.
have a sequel look.
Yeah.
See, we're not as far as you thought.
Their office is
Yeah.
down in
Yes,
I think we need to lobby the golf cart manufacturers to start putting 12-volt charging ports on their cars.
There, so you can plug it in.
Yes, ma'am.
You reference lithium batteries,
Uh-huh.
that's not produced with aircraft, I'm asking.
Oh, no, these are all FAA approved. Now,
'Cause I
there
know-
is one airline that I found recently that has restricted, and that's Japan Airlines. Okay, that's the only one I've noted, and they just wanted to know how many cells were in each battery, and it depends on the battery life. And we had to document it for them, and they were fine. But most airlines will, no issues at all. Yeah.
when you travel with these batteries, if you're gonna carry multiple batteries, a Ziploc bag or a plastic bag would be enough to keep these components away from each other. They're safe, but if you have these two components touch another two components of a different battery, you're gonna get a spark. That's when you'll have an issue. So try to put at least a Ziploc bag over them. That's enough to keep them away from each other.
When we rent batteries, when we do, we put them in a sleeve for travel.
Sock would be fine.
Socks are good too. Socks are good too.
Oh,
Yes.
good questions.
I took my Inogen machine on a plane to Hawaii,
Okay.
and the seat in front of you has a plug in the back, and so I plugged it in and charged it the whole
Yeah,
way.
so she's pointing out that she can plug it in, and many airlines do now have a port,
And so do buses.
and buses, and so, do- yeah,
And I used it in my hotel room, and I slept, no problem.
no problem.
Slept all night.
Did you slip with the unit?
May I
Yeah.
tell you on what she's saying? That worked for that machine. But for the sequel, it will not charge on a plane.
Okay.
It's too,
It's
Too much power.
thank you, that's what it is.
Yeah, and the
Trust
same
me, I
goes
tried.
for, these portables, if you're, depending on your car, if you're pushing it up to level 5, it draws an awful lot of power and it'll blow the fuse in some cars. So you have to have your automotive company look at it and readjust the fuse on it.
What does the Inogen go to?
This unit goes up to a 5.
This is the one that we talked about on TV that's at late at night.
Yeah, you could probably charge
That
that.
you see
which is
people
the
run,
bigger one.
doing sprints with,
Yes.
which you can't do. But it's called the G4. You know, it's nice just around to go to the store. It's
Right.
light, it's lighter than a lot of my wife's purse for sure, but.
And this is the
I also wanted to add that a lot of times, because of the FAA, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, just want to know. They will put you on a window with the concentrator.
Yes.
You cannot sit on the aisle, and you can't sit with bulkhead.
Right.
Oh,
Yes, once in a while, but as a general rule, They stick
put
you on the
you
window.
in, yes.
Yeah.
Why?
Because they want the two seats closest to the aisle to be able to evacuate rapidly
Exactly.
if there's a problem.
Exactly.
Not have to look for a cord and a piece of equipment.
That's weird, I always sit in the
So you're stuck kind of in that corner,
Yeah.
I also
and
talked
it's
to
not
them
really
about
enough space.
Right.
You need a first class seat.
Right, and I think you made a good point. When you book your flight, because I'm not gonna do my thing, you're kind of doing it, make sure you get close to a bathroom if you can. That always these, people don't think about that, but just make a checklist of all these items you need and carry it with you. Just make sure you check off, because especially on people that travel on tours, they're in Rome one day and Florence the next, you leave your car charger at the hotel, you're out of luck. If you have that checklist, you check it as you're going, you're really sure you've got everything, and I maintain it. Make it and check it, because you just take the time to do it so you don't have the opportunity to look for a car charger in somewhere in Italy or Greece, and good luck.
So to talk about airplanes, we've gotten our 10-minute warning. To talk about pressurization on airplanes. We have this chart that we put together a while back, and it seems to work pretty well in explaining. If you're at sea level, where we are right now, 21% oxygen in the air, barometric pressure, is it on this one, 760 millimeters of mercury. If you're sitting in your O2 saturation is 94%, or whether it's 84%, or whether it's 90%. These are color-coded to the oxygen graph that is being handed out to you right now. So when you're here at sea level and you're 21%, you're 97% saturated. That's awesome. You can be very reassured. And if you go up to 5,000 feet, which is either by going up to a mountain or being in some airplanes, the atmospheric pressure drops, and instead of being 97%, you will automatically desat to 94%. Just because there's less available oxygen for you to breathe. And if you are 94 here at sea level, no one's going to be bothered by that. You're going to be great. But going up to 5,000 feet, your new is going to be 90% saturated. Now, the problem is airplanes are not pressurized at sea level or at 5,000 feet. Airlines are pressurized at 8,000 feet.
Except the S787, it is pressurized at 6,500.
787 is?
787.
That we're not flying right now?
Is that the one that's grounded at the moment? So he said the 787, is that a Boeing?
Yes.
787 is pressurized at 6,500 feet. That's awesome. You know, the FAA regulation states that the airplane must be pressurized between 5,000 and 8,000 feet. That is the federal guideline for that. The problem is, and correct me if I'm wrong about this, Gail, in order to pressurize the airplane more and to bring it up, it requires more fuel and losing a little bit of power. It's like turning your air conditioner on and wanting it really cold.
And going up the hill.
It's all a function of altitude. The higher you go, you finally reach the limit that your airplane can pressurize to 8,000
Right.
feet.
But it's also more economical for them to do that too, rather than to pressurize it down. But either way, 8,000 feet is where the plane's going to be pressurized at. And so if you're at sea level, if you're 97%, sea level and 5,000 feet here, you're in the green zone. Go up to 8,000 feet in that airplane, you're going to be 90% saturated, and that's what I saw. I got so excited that, oh my God, I fit the textbook. If you are 94 at sea level, you're going to be 90% at 5,000 feet, which isn't alarming at all. It's not going to be for a long duration of time. But when you get in that airplane, it's going to be 84% saturated. Not good. You're not going to feel good. You're going to get a naggy little headache, a little tired, wired feeling, maybe nauseated. Don't try and balance your checkbook or do anything like that. And then if you hover around 90% at sea level, you're going to be 74%. This is our red zone where we just don't want to see you at any time at all. And remember, because people ask me all the time, oh, I'm fine, my breathing was great. But what were the numbers? It's all about the numbers. And I want to tattoo that on everybody's forearm. It's all about the numbers, because that's what it boils down to. Are there any questions about that? How saturations change with altitude? And in the airplane, your saturation is going to change. Everybody's, the pilot and the co-pilot and the captain attendants are going to change. And then this is, oh my God, been resurrected. Well, how come it's not in color? I used to do the ocean blue.
I know.
So this is the ocean, this is sea level, and that's a little boat to show you that that is indeed the ocean, where we have 21% oxygen. But we come out and we go up a mountain where we have 5,000 feet, and we have 17% oxygen because we have less atmospheric pressure. And then we go up to 8,000 feet and we have 15% oxygen. But your airplane is way up here at 30,000 feet, 35, maybe 40,000 feet, where life is incompatible at that altitude. Nothing would survive very long. So in order to keep everybody, I love it when they say, for your comfort, the airline is pressurized, the airline cabin is pressurized for your comfort. It's for our survival, lady, it's pressurized for our survival. They pressurize it down to the 8,000 foot level. So that way everybody's more comfortable. You're getting 15% oxygen in that cabin while you're on the airplane. And you're not at sea level again. Understand now? So, yeah, we did that. Jackie and I usually spend about 2.5 or 3 hours over 2 days explaining that. But you know, what I've noticed over time is the benefits of the oxygen conserving device Inogen is it's small, it's light, the batteries are light, it's easy to travel with and move with. But the drawbacks are it's pulse dose only, it doesn't support BiPAP or oxymizer cannulas. It's limited in the amount of oxygen it can make. It's the important stuff. It's the oxygen delivery stuff. Where with the larger ones, whether it's the GO2 or the Sequel, the benefits are more oxygen, continuous flow. I can use an oxymizer. I can use my CPAP with it. You know, and the drawbacks are the convenience things. So you kind of have to think what's more important to you. The convenience, which I understand, I totally get that. But it's all about the numbers and keeping you well saturated. I feel personally that you need to be informed to make a decision, and that you need to see what works best for you. And if I'm going to bear the expense and the inconvenience of traveling and wearing O2, I'm going to do it for the correct piece of equipment that's going to do what it's supposed to do. I'm waiting for the day, and I swear to God, someone said, you really don't like pulse dose only. It's like, I want to embrace pulse dose only. But I need to see better numbers before I can do that. Do anybody else have any parting
Oh,
remarks?
there's a question. Yes?
Yes, are you going to be talking about paperwork and traveling?
No, I wasn't going to talk about, but you do need paperwork, you guys, before you go on a plane. Make sure that you can have your doctor has to sign a form. You need to take it to your airline, needs to know what device you're using, if it's authorized to go on. So it's not this, oh honey, spontaneously, let's go to Vegas. You have to plan ahead. Do you want to say also?
Let me say one thing about that. The rules are starting to change.
Oh, are they?
Okay. The most recent things, if you go on the internet, some, like American, they don't require a physician any longer. But they do require you to notify them, and you better carry your RX with you to prove that you need it. And particularly internationally, if you're going to get it out internationally, some countries, we've learned, won't accept our RX. They'll ask you to go to a doctor in that country and get an RX. But if you have your RX, you show them that, and they'll write it, and you can go. But Greece, I know for sure that happened to a lady.
Okay, wow.
So just look at each airline you're going to plan on flying. One of the things, I won't do mine, but I always say plan a month or so ahead. Make sure you contact that airline. Make sure you contact them. Make sure you contact them over and over and over. And if you're having oxygen,
Direct flights.
Yeah, direct flights are a way to go if you can do that. But
I just flew Air France in September, and if you're below 2 liters continuous, you don't need any paperwork. So it really depends on the airline.
But check with them first.
Just plan ahead and check with each airline, because every airline is different. It's kind of like these
Kinda like the
devices,
leader
they're
flow.
all different, and you just need to know.
Yes,
Also, I would add time, because the personnel, sometimes they don't know.
Yes.
You're right.
It will take time and
Yes,
time.
you're right.
They have to go this one.
yeah,
and
maybe
go
You're right.
3 hours ahead than 2
You're right.
hours. Also, the most knowledgeable person on the plane about oxygen therapy is gonna be you, okay? The flight attendants, they work hard, these people, but they don't know anything about these devices. Yes,
The other requirement of the FAA is you must have with you the battery capacity for 150% of the longest leg you're gonna be on. That's in
And
case of
waiting
delay or whatever.
and waiting time, you're
And
right.
waiting time, that's right.
So this is where the oximizer for us comes in handy. Because if you only need 2 liters on a half a liter, you can make this last for 4 hours. So you're not lugging around, so many batteries, yes?
The airlines don't know about it.
I know, and like I say, the most knowledgeable person, so I don't know how we can educate them, but they're really a great device to have. We do have quite a few people here with oxymizers on, so we're really fortunate. Also, another test you can have is what I had, is a high altitude simulation test. For those of you who are here and like me say, well, I don't desaturate, and I do. I had a high altitude test and I went to 84% or 85% at 8,000 feet. So now I qualify for oxygen traveling, either on a plane or when I camp. It's an easy test to have done. They do it at a little company, and I think other places as well must do it. It's the easiest medical test you'll ever have. You just sit there and breathe.
What's it supposed to be?
No needle.
90 and above. You know, if I was 92, 94, I would qualify. But I dropped to 90, and then they said, stand up and walk. And I just 1, 2, 3, 4, phew, I was 88%, or 85%. So that qualified me to get oxygen through my oxygen company. But here at Torrance, I never would qualify. So that's an important test to think about. If you're on the borderline like I was, and high in Torrance, but low at altitude, this is something simple to have done. Your physician orders it, and that qualifies you for oxygen with travel.
I wanted to take me up to Big Bear to see if I could breathe up
You-
there.
But you can't,
Before I
because
go.
you can't breathe in Torrance. So you already qualified. I'm sorry,
But it was a test before we get on the plane to see if I could breathe up there and if I
you're
could-
not gonna breathe up there. I'm just saying, I don't mean to be so blunt, but if you're on oxygen right now and here in the room and you qualify for it, believe me, you need it at altitude. Okay? So if you're already on it here, you don't need an altitude test. But if you're borderline and you don't know, I'm 96, 97 here in Torrance. Who would have thought? But I happened to go to Mount Whitney and I was 79%. I came back home and said, oh, hello, I need an altitude test. And, they heat and hot, and I got one, and they said, wow, you really desaturate. So now I qualified. But I happen to know about O2 sat, so I was a little bit pushy on getting the test done. Mercedes, you had a question?
And also one thing to add about the travel, I don't know if it has changed, but I have to take a lot of batteries, and that does not count for excess luggage.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. Yeah. And you need to invite someone to go along with you just to carry your extra batteries. It's very difficult. It's possible to travel with oxygen, they just don't make it easy for us. It's an easy way to say it. Yes, Tom?
If I could make a suggestion, Cheryl and I ran into the problem one time. Some idiot forgot to take the 20-foot hose.
Oh.
At night.
Oh, yes.
And so we were gonna had to find a 20-footer. We didn't have a prescription. So if you travel, make sure you take a copy of the doctor's prescription with you, because these oxygen folks will not sell you even a hose
Right.
without a prescription. So if you're out and Sacramento, and you need a 20-foot hose because some idiot forgot it. You better have the prescription.
Yes.
And that's why we say take a copy of your RX, put it in 2 or 3 bags, and carry one with you, just like you do your